Want another broken Pokemon moveset to help you beat Classic Mode in Pokérogue?
Huh?
Well, have I got a fun guy just for you. Shiitake, a look at this Pokemon. Does that work? It's Parasect. You know Parasect. It sucks. It's always sucked. Forget that time we took it to Worlds and came 5th. That doesn't count. Even in season 1 of the anime, they made fun of Paris for how much it sucked. I actually watched this entire episode again as a research for this video. And 1 minute, Ash is looking up Paris's type so he can send out a Pokemon that it can easily beat. And after one attempt with Squirtle, he switches to Charmeleon and just roasts this thing. Like, Jesus, Ash, you are either the dumbest trainer on Earth or an absolute savage. Okay, yeah, you're a fuck. Even in Pokérogue, Parasect sucks. Right? Wrong. Parasect is awesome in Pokérogue. In fact, it's better than it's ever been in any mainstream Pokemon game. And here's why. Spore. Oh, you thought I was going to say Spore, huh? You think a sleep move from base 30 speed is enough to warrant a broken Pokemon video? Wrong. This is a video about Triage. Triage is Parasect's passive ability. It gives +3 priority to healing moves. But this doesn't just affect healing moves like Rest and Recover, this affects any move with a healing aspect. That means for Parasect, it gets 2 amazing stab attacking moves in Horn Leech and Leech Life that not only always go first, but they heal Parasect for the damage caused. This is great because it effectively eliminates Parasect's first glaring weakness, its terrible speed. Parasect actually has a decent attack stat at base 95. It could be better, but it's enough to do a decent job of setting up and sweeping. And Parasect learns growth by level up fairly early on. But if you want to make the most of Parasect, then you would hope to run into the Sword Stance TM as early as possible. This will require a bit of luck, but not as much as you think. TMs in Pokérogue are weighted by rarity. There's Common, Great, and Ultra. When you roll a Common TM, the game then selects from the pool of TMs moves that only Pokemon currently in your party can learn. This means that the less Pokemon you have in your party at the start of the run, the more likely it should be that you roll the TMs that Paris can make use of. So it is quite likely that you'll run into this TM early on, and if not, it may well come up at some point later in your run. Until it does, Growth is a fine alternative. So with these 3 moves locked in, that doesn't leave much room for anything else, but we do have good options for that final move. Parasect suffers slightly from poor coverage, and if you do choose to run a coverage move in that 4th move slot, the TM Dig is going to be your best bet. This will give you super effective damage on Fire, Steel, and Poison. That's 3 of the 4 types that resist Parasect's 2 stab moves. Don't forget though, you won't have priority from Triage when using Dig, so be prepared to take at least 1 hit if you're staying in. There's some useful utility options for this 4th slot, one of them of course being Spore, which can be extremely good for sleeping an opponent that's switching in, and then getting your sword stances off. You do have to keep an eye on which of your opponent's Pokemon are carrying Lumberries though, so make sure to be checking that top right hand corner of the screen often. Spore can be useful in the Eternatus fight, as Parasect won't have too much else to do with its 2 stab moves both being resisted, so getting a sleep move off at least allows it to contribute, if it can survive a hit. Another useful move for boss battles is Sappy Seed. This is the physical damaging grass move that also plants Leech Seed on your opponent. Leech Seed is fantastic for catching Rayquaza on switch-ins during the rival fight, and it's just an all-around great move in general. Once again, it's not affected by Triage, so don't rely on it for damage. Finally, the last move I can recommend for this 4th slot is Crab Hammer. It comes as an egg move for Paris and can hit switching in fire types very hard, especially in the early game. Perfect if your rival has counterpicked you with a fire starter. I would still take Dig over Crab Hammer in the long run if it comes up, but if you have it unlocked as an egg move, it's great in a pinch. One thing I haven't touched on yet is Parasect's non-passive ability. Your options are Effect Spore or Dry Skin. Also Damp is a hidden ability, but don't take Damp. After a bit of testing, I think that Effect Spore is actually more useful than Dry Skin, due to the fact that you're always healing health with your 2 main stab attacks and Triage. Parasect doesn't really need an immunity to water in Pokérogue. If you're switching in on a water move, you will likely survive the hit due to your resistances, and then you're going to be using Horn Leech with priority at the start of the next turn anyway, to heal back up and kill the water type that hit you. My dislike of Dry Skin may be slightly biased due to the fact that in my last Monobug run, I landed in the Volcano biome for the Elite 4 waves, and the permanent sun in that biome absolutely ruined any hopes of getting good Parasect footage. I had to resort to sweeping with Quiver Dance Venomoth, which is a great Pokemon by the way. Venomoth video coming soon. TM. So maybe I'm a little salty about that. The argument in favour of dry skin is of course that type immunity is always good. It makes the water biomes, of which there are a lot, far easier, and safer switchings means more opportunities to set up and sweep. However, when that Rayquaza hits your Parasect with an Outrage, and it gets put to sleep by Effect Spore, and it wins you the 195 battle, that's a pretty great feeling. So have a think about it. It's completely up to your playstyle which you prefer. Both can be good. One pro that isn't mentioned very often is that self-healing moves will save you a lot of money in a run on things such as potions. So running a Pokemon like Parasect will potentially nab you some opportunities to reroll. You will need support from the rest of your team for things like Ray and Eternatus. This is just an issue with the majority of bug and grass types in the game, unfortunately. And hey, Parasect is bug and grass. That doesn't mean you shouldn't use it at all though. There's different parts of the game that different Pokemon excel at, and Parasect can be devastating against some of the evil bosses in the game like Giovanni and Team Aqua. Some of the Elite Fours with Dark and Psychic trainers also get stomped by Parasect. I've had runs where I've used nothing but Parasect for like 30 straight waves, never needing to heal up, just setting up a few Sword Stances at the beginning of a biome and just going to town with Hornleech. Grass types love it if you can get a hold of the map early on and steer your run towards the water vortex of lake, sea and seabed biomes. If you end up going down the Metropolis route, you're going to have a far more difficult time. If you want to use Parasect in a mono bug run, Crustle is a good partner Pokemon as it resists poison, doesn't care too much about flying types, and it will also bait in water attacks for you. Then you can switch in with Dry Skin and set up. You probably also want the Fire Centipede, Center Scorch, with Flash Fire for Monobug 2, or you're going to have a really bad time with fire attacks. So that's Parasect. I think I may have sold it a little short in this video. It is absolutely capable of tearing through some major boss battles in the game with just a single Sword Stance. Parasect is really fun to use, give it a try. If we can take it to Worlds, then you can definitely take it on a great Classic Mode run. So quick story time, the year we took Parasect to Worlds was the same year that I was there in 2010. I met up with Hui and Dwee and the rest of the Americans on the first evening there, and the first thing I did was pronounce Hui's name completely wrong. And I just remember the look of disdain on his face when I called him Hoi Ha, and Dwee absolutely creasing behind him. I did make it up to him though by filming his quarterfinals match, so I think we parted ways on good terms.